Morning, Cameron.
Morning, Robin.
Morning, Alina.
Good morning.
Craig.
Good morning.
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 Morning. Morning, Kat. Austin, how are you?
All right. How you doing, Robin?
All right.
The rest of them. That's the problem.
Morning, everyone.
Morning,
Good
Jan.
Good morning.
Morning, Jan. Morning, all.
Morning, morning. Oh, Julian's had a haircut.
I've had all my hair removed in a savage and brutal attack.
26th of
getting
May.
ready. I'm just getting ready for the next lockdown. I'm in preparation, you see.
Don't even go there.
Don't say that.
You know what Johnson said? He'd rather see bodies lying in the street.
In all fairness, who knows what Johnson said, or indeed what he meant? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the ladies that were desperate for haircuts.
Oh
Oh, no, it's unisex. It's unisex.
Oh, that's all right then.
It carries no boundaries at all.
That's a genderless problem, Elaine, most definitely.
Well, we only got our nail salons in Scotland open yesterday, so we're behind you in England. We've
Well,
had the hairdressing salons open for a few weeks, but it was only nail salons yesterday.
I confess I haven't been to the nail salon yet.
Are you sure?
Julian, you're behind the times, really.
I'll make a note. 1 second.
Once again, Julian, you tell us you haven't been, but just like Boris, did you go?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about the toenails, Julian?
Okay, now you got it.
Oh, please.
No.
It's far too early to see Julian's feet.
At any time, in fairness, at any time.
I'm going to wait till 26th of May before I can get my hair cut. So,
26th of May.
Well, I'm going tomorrow and I can't wait. I'm counting down the hours.
oh, yeah, I'm desperate. I keep doing my own fringe. So, yeah, it's been over a year since I've had it trimmed.
Jan, we have a mutual acquaintance. My best friend is Di Lofthouse.
Oh, and small world, isn't it?
A very small world, especially
It
in
really
hospitality.
is. Yeah.
I'm just making sure that I've not slept with anybody of the men. That was a
A
joke.
couple of black screens
That was a
there, you
joke.
never know.
Let's keep it quiet, Elaine. Let's keep it quiet. Another day and another time, and there was far too much being drunk.
Yeah, nice to see everybody so happy this morning. It must be something to do with the hospitality industry opening up, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have a celebration yesterday in Scotland?
Well, I don't drink. So I had to laugh because I live in a very, very small town called Kelso. And the Queen's Hotel's done a really, really good job of doing outside space. But of course, we've had lovely weather all last week. And then yesterday it started to rain and it was very cold. So everybody was outside with their pints going, this is lovely, isn't it? Taking, and with their hats and their scarves and their gloves on and their big raincoats.
Like I say, if it's good for the Swedish, then it's good for us.
Oh, well.
Definitely. Since I moved to 5 months ago, every single day it was sunny except yesterday and today. So these are 2 first days when it's not sunny.
I know.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Well, warm welcoming.
Oh, Alina, I thought part of Fife are you in?
I moved to Glenrothes.
Lovely.
My father lives in Cooper.
All right. Yeah, just nearby.
Oh, Alina, what dog have you got?
Oh, that's my trusted assistant. The moment I start talking, he needs to know. He's... What's there?
Look.
What's there?
What a lovely
He's
stick.
half Scottish and half Lhasa, so half Scottish, half Buddhist.
Oh, Lordy.
Anyway, it's nice to see out there in, I mean, I don't know the rest of the places, but Bristol, they seem to have cut off half the roads to put restaurants out on the pavement.
Oh gosh.
I don't know if everybody's got the same scenario in their town centres. Wondering whether it might be something for the future.
Lots of the riverside roads down here have been closed off for outside dining, and to be honest, it's pretty nice at the moment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Scottish Borders Council are very strict about how many seats you can have outside your property. So they limit things. And considering that we've got the biggest cobbled square in Scotland, that could make a lovely centerpiece outside the town hall, you know, to have like a outside cafe like we do in Spain or Italy. They'll just say, oh, it's I been this way, so it'll I be this way. So they won't change their way of thinking, which is really, really silly. Very, very silly.
Right. Well, I think we've got most of the people in for today. So the first presentation is Joan giving us some advice on event management. Just gonna make sure you can share your screen, Joan. Over to you. I'm just. Hello, Joan. I can see it, but I can't hear you.
Because I was too busy sharing my screen, I didn't unmute myself.
Yeah.
So can everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
You see the screen okay? Thumbs up, you can see it. Brilliant. Well, first of all, Robin, thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. Look, I run an online booking platform for events. So not for room reservations, not for hotel bookings. We're not booking.com, but we're trybooking.com. And we work with lots and lots of different sectors, of which the hospitality is one. But what I've done today, which I hope you find of interest, is take some of the insights that we see from other sectors to maybe give hoteliers some ideas as they come out of lockdown. So, what's the next 15 minutes going to bring? Well, we're going to focus a little bit on some of the challenges, most of which you already identify with, but how can we set those up? And what does that mean for some ideas to help hoteliers going forward? So that's what the next 15 minutes is going to bring. So I hope, if nothing else, you get one good idea out of this that you can take going forward. So the challenges facing hoteliers, and I've heard a lot about this through Robin's forum, and we hear about it in the media and we know it. We're going to have less international travellers. We've got a greater reliance on domestic and also local customers, because we'll be travelling less, to go off long distances just for food and beverage. We'll want to support those hotels and pubs and restaurants on our doorstep. We know there's an issue with staff, not just because of Brexit, but because people are going, oh, I've been furloughed for a year. Not sure I want to do weekend shifts at hotels anymore. So we know, we've heard those conversations been through this forum. We know that hotels are going to be in competition with things like holiday homes and cottages because they're seen as safer and you can keep your family discreet. And on top of all of that, there's still many manual systems within hotels and the industry with multiple touch points. And there's probably still too much admin for staff. So these are some of the challenges that we're all aware of. So how can what I'm about to give you ideas on help some of that? Well, first of all, we have got a really nice opportunity to almost refresh, particularly your local custom, on rethinking about their local hotels that they may not have frequented for a long time, even before COVID, beyond just accommodation and beyond food and beverage. And there's I see all sorts of events happening through our platform, which actually could be really fun and a real cash flow generator for hotels. So we're going to talk a bit about that, different ways of maybe using the venue, of encouraging local and less local customers to come and visit you by generating cash flow and renewing interest in hotels beyond the classic accommodation, food and beverage offerings. But we're also going to talk about how can they do that, and how platforms can ease the admin for hotel staff to make this much easier and more enjoyable, and take it much easier and quicker for guests to commit. And also how you can capture future marketing data for the hotel through bringing in different types of events that bring in new clientele or bring them back with a renewed interest. So you can actually grow your marketing database as well. So the what are we talking about with these new ideas? Well, kind of want to create reasons with new event ideas, both outdoor and indoor, because no matter what the government says, we know that people are going to have different attitudes to wanting to circulate with people they don't know and strangers beyond their own family and friends network. So here's just a handful of ideas, just to spark ideas. And I'm very, these spark ideas that are better than the ones I'm showing, which I'm sure you'll have, please pop them in the chat so we can share these ideas with the group. So here's just a few from other sectors that we work with. We are seeing a lot of classes. You'll all have seen this, all happening online. But what a great way to bring people back to your hotel by running those classes in your gorgeous venues. There's a lady who's doing Cooking the Caribbean Way, teaching people how to cook. Well, what a great way to bring your chef and your kitchen staff and reignite. They've not been able to cook for anybody for so long, and to reignite their interest in their customers, not just being behind the kitchen, serving F&B, but actually maybe running classes for your local clientele to bring them back to the hotel, to get them re-engaged, and to also give a face to all those fantastic kitchen staff that support you. Or think about topical events. We've just come out of Easter. We saw lots of wreath making by church groups and WI groups. Well, hotels have got gorgeous gardens. You could be doing this outside. So there's lots of ideas that happen in other areas of community that maybe you could bring into the hotel venue to, as I say, to renew people's interest in coming back to your venue and to get people excited about coming back beyond just the food and drink offering. The other thing is a lot of hotels have lots of beautiful grounds, and it doesn't matter if they're beautiful or not beautiful, or they've just got some really good space. It could be a big car park. You could do drive-in movies if you've got a big car parking space, like Premier Inns are brilliant, aren't they, with all the big car parking areas. Or you might have some beautiful lawn space and do an open air cinema. So again, things that you see happening in other parts of the community, bringing them to the hotel. One that I thought was a bit left of field, but I really like, charities have started to do quite a lot of, and again, this is outdoor. So it's again a way of people coming to your hotel with a different hat on, if you like. If you've got a building that would lend itself to abseiling, you could do a charity sponsored event where you're using the buildings to do something a bit more fun and outdoor, maybe doing an outdoor afternoon tea or a drinks celebration, or so something a bit out of the ordinary that people wouldn't expect to happen at hotels. So there were just 3 different areas, both indoor and outdoor, of reigniting hosting events at the hotels. So then the question is how, because we know hotels are going to be short-staffed. You've got so much to contend with getting it all so COVID friendly and socially distanced. And that's where event booking platforms, no matter which one you want to look at, can really help, because they make admin really easy. There's no more form filling. There's no more spreadsheet generation. There's no more lots of phone calls and emails. It's all done really simply in one easy step. It saves invoicing. It saves double checking all the requirements. It can be from intimate events, like your chef doing a cooking class, all the way through to huge corporate events that you put on normally, like the big Christmas party season. And it can all be managed really easily through your hotel website, through to mobile phones. So really, these online booking platforms for events can become your new 24/7 helper for hotels without having to worry about bringing on extra staff to manage all of this. It's quite the opposite. They'll ease a lot of the processes. And things like table plan management. It's got to be one of the biggest headaches, especially for big corporate events like Christmas parties, or when you have a big corporate who books the hotel. Platforms can really help do table plan management. And here's an example where the venue plan can be shown. So they can upload that, and it allows corporates to book the table that they want to book, and it allows them to capture all the data that you need from all of their guests really easily in one hit. The other thing is, if you're doing sort of more theatre style setups for conferences within your hotel, social distance seating plans can enable the hotel to help your client to manage this, including things like socially distanced blocking. So the hotel can actually set up how many seats will be automatically blocked when a seat's reserved. So let's say you were doing classes and you were having somebody giving you a talk about the local neighbourhood, or some historian might be doing some really interesting talk at the hotel about the history of the hotel or the history of the town, and you set up seats, and you could allow your guests to feel more confident in coming because they can see that they can book a seat and be socially distanced from other people in the room. So it'll just give customers that confidence that they can come to more public events more easily. Other things like wedding fairs, you know, the hotels do this so often, and now you've got to think about, gosh, we can't just have masses of people come through our fair. You can set up time slots. So you can run your fair over a weekend and then set up time slots and also set up capacities. So as bridal party, no, they're not going to be there with hundreds of other bridal parties. They know that if I go at 10 o'clock, there's only going to be 15 people in at that time. So you can schedule people, so you can bring wedding fairs and all sorts of fairs back to the hotel that make it easy to manage for the hotel, but also easy to manage for the customer to commit and know that it's going to be a more intimate environment. Another one, and the final one, is weddings. You know, at the moment, you're a guest at a wedding, you turn up at the hotel and you look forward to that gorgeous wedding breakfast. And you're either going to get vegetarian or you're going to get the non-vegetarian option. Well, with something like a booking platform, you can give your bridal parties the ability to enable their guests to choose what they'd like to eat, all at no cost, because you're just asking them to complete a little booking link that they send out to their guests, and they can decide what's their favourite menu selection. So how nice would it be for guests to actually be able to choose from a lovely menu? So you're giving that restaurant experience to the wedding party as well. So lots and lots of different easy ways that these event booking platforms can really help you manage existing events that weddings do day in, day out, but also some other new ideas to bring your local customers back to your venue with confidence. I think I'm under my 15 minutes, Robin.
Yeah, is that? So who's got ideas about what's going on about events and things now? Has anybody got any other ideas about what people are doing to try and to stimulate that income? Anybody?
You know, hi, you know, it's a bit of a, obviously it's a sad thing and it's not a good thing, but funerals and wakes and anything that venues can do to take the stress, the family who are organising that wake is so much appreciated. And you know, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to any of the funerals that have happened with people living close to us and friends and family because of the restricted numbers. But I know from the families that they certainly appreciate it when the venue is able to smooth that path for them. And yeah, so that maybe this is a sad but necessary thing as well.
Yeah.
Training has been very, very big for us. We use, well, NHS being a very big customer for training the new nurses. Also CrewLink, training new flight attendants and so on. They have been providing us good numbers of bookings for training rooms.
I think a lot of hotels kind of get put off with expanding their business because of the work involved in actually organizing them. And yet I'm always telling hotels to sort of like look for other opportunities to make money outside the normal, you know, the normal business of food and beverage, the rooms, etc. because at the end of the day, the studies say that these people who've booked accommodation, once they've booked the accommodation, that's it. They've forgotten about the cost. Whatever they have on that now money in their pocket is like burning their pockets. They're just wanting to spend it. So even offering like excursions and things in-house to guests through a system like this, through some kind of platform, can also be a good money generator. And not everybody's willing to go down to reception and start grilling the reception team about what they can do and everything. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities, whether it be for people who are in the hotel or people to bring more people into the hotel, because if you bring more people into the hotel, they might come back again for another reason.
Yeah, and I just honestly, and I am probably the least knowledgeable of your sector in this group. So I'm looking at it from a layman's point of view, and I just see so many hotels, and actually tends to be the smaller ones who are the most creative, and it's the bigger ones that could do so much more in terms of re-engaging the local communities. I'm just north of Lancaster, and I can see 2 big hotels just off the M6, and they've got huge car parks, and they just lie there empty. They could have car shows, they could have cinemas, outdoor cinemas, they could have outdoor fetes, outdoor farmers markets, all that stuff that if it's not being provided locally, the hotel could almost become that custodian of bringing the community back together, as we come out of this tough year.
Joan, I definitely agree with you, but because I've worked for large corporate hoteliers like IHG and Hilton, a lot of the time you're restricted by them about what you can use your hotel or the grounds for. And that's why you find that the independent hoteliers attack the market in a totally different way, because they can make decisions very quickly. And they can, quite often, you're not dealing with 10 signatures, you're dealing with the GM, and then you're dealing with the owner, or you might be dealing with the owner who is the GM. So it's a lot easier to get them to buy into these packages. Now, in a former life, I used to work for easybreaks.com, which were like a cheap man's version of booking.com. And I used to be the hotel contractor. So I would go into new properties, mainly independent, and say to them, let's create a package, but let's create a package that's not just about B&B, BBB, entertainment on a Saturday night. Because if you look into your community and look about what that community has to offer, like canal cruises or boat cruises on the Loch, or, I saw a Facebook page the other day, which is dog walking in Scotland. And I immediately sent that to one of my clients. Now, this is a gentleman that's not a hotelier. He's got 3 hotels. He's never been a hotelier. He owns bars and restaurants in Glasgow. So he sucks up ideas because he doesn't know the market after my little years in the business. And I said to him, you need to get boat cruises. He's now got kayaking on Loch Long. He's now got hot tubs in the gardens. He's now got a beer garden. He's now got dog-friendly rooms. Because when I first met him 5 years ago, he said, I'm not having dogs in my hotel. No way I'm having dogs in my hotel. And I said, well, you know what? You have just cut off a revenue stream that will bring you a lot of money. And as soon as I said to him, you can charge for a dog-friendly room overnight, but you have to make it worthwhile, i.e. dog treats, dog beds, etc. He suddenly pricked up his ears and he's now got a dozen dog-friendly rooms. So I do agree with you. And I also think with Robin, hospitality has to come out of the box and be creative and think about new ideas to get business through their doors. Because as you so rightly said, if I had to choose now between a hotel and a holiday cottage, which would I choose? One of them welcomes my pup. One of them says, this is your space. You make it as dirty as you want while you're here, but we have followed every single PPE instruction to make this spotless from the last person. And we don't have that huge turnover like a hotel. So hotels need to wake up to that and realize that they're not dealing with the world as we knew it before, and we're never going to be. Now,
I think that's it. You know, I'm a big ideas person. I spent 25 years running global advertising agencies. And in my latter years in Sydney, one of my clients was Accor Hotels.
Oh, right.
And so I've worked across all sectors, from telcos to cars to airlines, all sorts, food and beer, all brands you'd know and recognise. And hotels are notoriously a bit closed off to creativity and larger groups. And I just think there's now a real need to really think outside the box and think about all that real estate that hotels have and use it creatively to generate cash flow, not just from people booking hotel rooms, but from all the people that are visiting or in the local neighbourhood who want to get a change of scene, who want a change of scene from their own kitchen, but they're not prepared yet to go with the madding crowd. So you need to show them ways that they can re-engage with you in a more intimate and exciting way. That's I guess, my call out from today.
I walked down a little ginnel next door to now I've lived here for 5.5 years, and I discovered this little garage that houses e-bikes. And I never even knew that we had that. And what's happened is one of the holiday cottage owners has said, oh, if you're coming on holiday and you want to bike around the area, because it's quite flat in the Scottish borders, we've got e-bikes. So he's already thought about how to have a value-added service for his guests. And the more people that do that, the more attractive the area becomes. Because whether you decide, Joan, before you come, oh yes, we're going to go out for a bike ride, me and my hubby, and then suddenly you get here and you think, it's raining, we're not going out for a ride. The fact that's been put in front of your face, it will make you think about it. And it takes away the pain and the booking. And that you just think, right, we're going there, we're going to, well, fishing is very prime here, and shooting, I don't agree with. But all these things, and if you're not putting them in front of someone's face and giving them the options, they won't think about it. They'll just
it's all about guest experience, isn't it? I mean, some hoteliers sometimes say to me, I don't want to be selling to the client, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but if it's done well, it's actually making them feel as though they're actually getting a better experience. And that's the key to it, is whatever you're giving them to improve their stay or to improve their weekends because they're in the local community or whatever. And it's that ability to go out there and say, well, I'm going to make your life better, or I'm going to make your stay better because I've organized this, this, and this. And all you have to do is press a button and you'll be on it. And you know, it's just getting that mentality that actually it's not selling to the client, it's giving them a better experience. And by the way, we're making a bit of profit out of it.
Can I just come in here? Robin, can I just come in here for a minute?
Sorry, yes.
Sorry. I'm not a hotelier, so I've been listening to all of this. I've spent my last 30 years supplying hotels and restaurants. I'm now on the other side of the fence doing something with food in terms of serving the customer base. It's interesting because where I am at the moment, there's a hotel, a small boutique hotel that obviously they were shut for a while. And then all of a sudden we had leaflets and all sorts of advertising coming through. And what they did was very simply, they had a car park. They had maybe about 40 or 50 spaces. And they reopened their kitchen, reduced their menu, and they were just basically took it down to a basic menu of wholesome food, things like burgers and easy food that you can actually sit in the car and eat, and slightly upmarket, not McDonald's type stuff, but you know, really good quality and value for money. And they brought their sort of waiting staff in, and what you could do is you can drive in, park up, and stay in the car, and you put your hazard lights on, and a waiter comes up and hands you a menu, or you can go online and look at the menu before you get in. You place your order, and the drinks and the food comes to you. You basically, once you get your food, you switch off your hazard lights, eat your food, put your hazard lights on again when you're done. They'll take the rubbish away, and you drive off.
Fantastic.
Simple. And what they've done, they've used their staff, they use their kitchen staff, they're using the same sort of ingredients. So really, you know, they're generating, and they're full most of the time. Really simple. I mean, you know, anyway, I thought I'd share that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the simple ideas are always the best, aren't they? I mean, I just think if you go back to the meaning of hospitality, it is to welcome guests into your home and offer them something to eat and drink. And when someone comes into your home, or they're coming up for the weekend to stay with you, do you not say, would you like to go to the beach? Would you like to go and see a castle? Would you like to go and see a museum? You immediately do that to your friends and family. So all you're doing in a hotel or a serviced accommodation is doing the same thing, but making money out of it. Yeah. And as Robin's just said, if you do it correctly, they don't think you're selling to them. They think you're being helpful.
You're actually serving them, Elaine. That's what you're doing. You're serving them, and you're serving them in a way that's with ingenuity and creativity, and they'll appreciate it. And you know what? It's not about the price. They'll pay the price if the customer experience is there and they're loving it and they're safe. They're sitting in the confines of their own car without a mask. Hell, they're going to enjoy it.
Well, let's face it, everybody's got, well, not everybody, but most people of a certain generation have not been out spending money on clothes, holidays. A lot of my friends have bought new cars, but they're not been spending the money like we normally do because we've been locked down. So now, and they're not going to go on holiday abroad the next possibly 18 months. So they're thinking, whatever we would spend on a Caribbean cruise or whatever, we'll spend on our holiday in the UK.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially for, like you say, for independent hotels have got that little bit more flexibility during this summer to actually, I mean, just get people coming through their doors for whatever event might be. Like you said, like abseiling or fairs, or, you know, there's so many things that could invite people to come into the establishment. And if you've got systems that make it easy for them to just go online, book in, get their place, as it were, and you make it interesting, and then you can add to it with the food and beverage offer and all the rest of it. And those people will come back again if they get a good experience, even if it's not the hotel experience, it's like a fair they've come to, or the number of people who go to like fairs and things in hotels and then end up booking their wedding because they've experienced the hotel from a sort of that sort of view, and they go, well, actually, this is a nice place, the service is good, bam, we're going to come here for our wedding. And it's those sort of like areas where we can make the most of this summer, I think.
Well, picnics, packed lunches. We used to do all those things in hotels, and then the big boys said, oh, we're not making a lot of money out of them, to stop all that. Well, we need to go back to our square roots because times have changed. Times have changed. And I honestly do not think we're ever going to go back to the normal that we knew. There's going to be a new normal, and we have to adapt to it.
I think you're right, actually. And I think it's going to be about smaller groups, though, don't you think, more?
Absolutely.
Because I think, like, from the people I've sort of been chatting with and meeting with, everyone feels very anxious about going out in big groups. We've all been locked down. So I think that the events could capitalise on that. The hotels, rather, could capitalise on the smaller group events, which means that you could get like more concentrated bookings if you were actually marketing it to a group of people, that, you know, a group of mates that came out together. I think that's maybe an avenue that could, you know, be fruitful, because people don't want to be in big crowds, do they? Obviously, no one does.
Well, that's why I love that idea that Joan had about the wedding fairs. I think that's brilliant, Joan. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, we've been approached by people in the hotel industry. That was a demo I did for that hotel in Wales to show them how easy. So they just think big room, do the advert in the local newspaper, have people come through the front door. No, there's a much more sophisticated way you can do it. And you can set your time slots, you can set capacities, and you give all those bridal parties confidence to come and enjoy the wedding fair in a more intimate way. And you'll probably end up getting more custom as a result. And then you can serve food and beverage more easily, because you can get really creative with this, really creative, and have gorgeous little mini food parcels for each 15 people that walk through every hour, make it easy for your catering team to manage. There's just so much that hotels can do. And I guess my big call out here is be creative. You can't use systems and lines and red tape that you mentioned, Elaine, to hold you back. You can't afford to. You've really got to be creative now. And that's what I urge you to do.
Robin, what's the rules in England? Because I know what the rules are in Scotland. What's the rules in England for large get-togethers now, such as wedding fairs or whatever?
I'm not actually sure what it is at the moment. It's that confusing
Not
down here.
Yet. Not yet is the answer, really.
Yes, not yet.
Right.
I think it's going to be sometime like the end of June that they actually allow larger groups. Same with like the theatres, I think, are sort of like online to open around sort of the end of June time. So they're still being fairly cautious, but
it's Midsummer's Day, isn't it? It's all Midsummer's Day, I think. Yeah.
But it's nothing to stop sort of these smaller events or smaller groups. And you know, if a hotel's got space, as it were, then the world is our oyster as far as organising things, and that's what they've got to think about. They've got to be more imaginative, I think, about what they can offer, not just to the hotel, to the guests, but also to the world around them, because the world around them can be their bread and butter in the winter period when they're not likely to get so much guests coming to stay, and even if it means putting up a few marquees in the winter months and actually doing things and getting revenue coming in, it's paying the bills.
You know, it's interesting. You know, I'm in the Lake District, and we've got an abundance of beautiful venues, but we've also got an abundance of beautiful National Trust type venues. And I see the National Trust venues being more creative. That's where we go for the Christmas fair. That's where we go for the gin and chili festivals. Honestly, I've not stepped foot in a Lake District hotel for anything like that. I find myself at the National Trust properties. Just take a leaf out of the National Trust book, if nothing else, and do smaller versions. Because, you know, no matter what the government say, particularly if you go back to weddings usually involves a bridal party, which usually involves a mother or a mother-in-law, older people. They're not going to want to come and circulate with hordes of strangers at a wedding fair or anything else. So rework it so that people go, oh, fantastic, I can have this more intimate experience with all of the suppliers that you're bringing on, and it'll be a win-win. It'll be a win-win, because people want intimate experiences that are memorable and pleasurable.
Yeah, Suzanne's just put on the chat, 30 people outside from the 17th of May, and then 21st of June, normal-ish. Yes, whatever normal will be moving forward.
Just a comment there as well. Sorry, can I just add it with an idea that's similar to what Azza mentioned? I've got a hotel in Liverpool city centre, which is a listed building, really interesting building, the Grand Central, and they have a garden area out at the back, and this is central Liverpool, right? So they've been running at the weekends kind of garden parties, socially distanced garden parties, cream teas, live entertainment during the afternoon, and it is going really, really well for them. And that was just an unused space, you know. So, and they're kind of marketing it through a lot of the kind of, you know, the working men's clubs and the social clubs that are out and about around Liverpool. Those people who normally used to get out of an evening in the weekend and watch a turn at the local Legion have got nowhere to go and have had nowhere to go for the last 12 months. So, you know, they've really capitalized on that and marketed that with those communities and brought those communities back together. And I think what Joan mentioned before about the hotel being a custodian of the community, it's so important now. And that they need to take that social responsibility to say, come on, it's not just about money. Let's bring people back together, because that's where it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Matthew, were you?
Yeah, sorry, just to say, indoor attractions open from the 17th of May. So the Lowry, as an art gallery and a theatre, our gallery actually opens we're actually only opening at the weekends to start with, but opens on the first Saturday, which is the 22nd of May. So that's obviously subject to the government announcement on the 10th of May, but we are due to open inside attractions. Social distancing measures, etc., have to still be in place. But then in the beginning of June, because that's the earliest we could get an actual performance, our actual theatre is doing performances. So, but again, socially distanced, with masks, and obviously all the recommendations in terms of 2 meters, etc. So actually 17th of May is a big next step, indoor as well as just outdoor.
And taking on from that, Matthew, the opportunity for hotels for a lot of, I'm not sure if the Lowry has membership, but the Natural History Museum, all of the museums, many of them from the local Steam Museum in Kew here to Kew Gardens have membership. And whilst there are local memberships, there are also national memberships. So with the clever use of hashtags and in a genuinely supportive way, you know, you don't want to piggyback on somebody's hashtag in a cynical way, but if you're saying, can't wait to welcome guests back to visit the Victoria and Albert Museum of Childhood, and you're the East London hotel that's opposite that, or the Falkirk Wheel, there is an opportunity there. And I'm looking at my diary now, and the museums are all communicating to their members.
Yeah.
And members are booking out. So why not have, you know, I'm taking 4 brownies, I'm taking a little group of brownies to the Natural History Museum doing half term. Actually, one last thing, key date. You know, that bank holiday half term starts in England in most school boroughs in England on the 31st of May. There are, I see all over my area, so much pent up demand of people who aren't in travel and tourism, do have money to spend. They would previously have spent a lot going to sunny places and going skiing, and they are looking for places to go to, but they want to know, what can I do when I go to these places? So that week commencing 31st of May, I think.
Okay, great conversation. Can we move on? Because we've also got Trevor here, and he's got an interesting topic as well, all about IT, especially related to what we had last week or last 2 weeks ago, and all the hybrid events and everything. So if we can move on with Trevor.
Hi, good morning. I don't know if you can see my screen.
We can see, yes, a load of sort of.
You can see a circle with customer engagement in the middle of it, can you?
We can now, yes.
Grand. Good morning to you. What an incredibly good group. What a wonderful group. I spend my lifetime around the world of hospitality in different forms of manner, but as a consumer, as opposed to you know, sort of doing a lot of the delivery. And I live in a very beautiful place in the Trossachs in Stirlingshire. So again, tourism and everything else to do with it is very, very, very important. What I'd like to cover in terms of greeting, I love all the different energy and ideas that are on there. As everybody begins to reopen, if you've got any friends or contacts in Australia and New Zealand, which have been massively differently affected by the whole COVID period than we have, it's a bit like reading tomorrow's newspaper. I would genuinely recommend that you reach out to them, because there's some real insights into that. They never, you know, they've had some lockdowns, but they've obviously had lots and lots of what we might call normal in terms of the interactions that are on there as well. So I would strongly recommend that. So in terms of tips and background, so Firstcom have about 18,000 customers across Europe. And amongst that, whilst we're not hospitality specialists, we have some of the big box hotel groups, and we have a range of different private and independent hotels and hospitality facilities. Also a lot of people in leisure. So one of the things I wanted to sort of raise is this circle that you guys see in front of you is about touch points. It's that greeting that when the customer makes contact with your organization, reimagining that. So what I would definitely suggest that people do this week, as you begin to sort of look at reception, look at that customer journey, is call yourself, make a booking, send an email, you know, send a text, check and start to run some water through those journey pipes that basically maybe haven't been run through for some time. Because certainly for a period, we're not going to have that audience, that big business conference audience that maybe in many cases we've had. And I guess in the hospitality trade also, we've also got to consider that we're not going to have the influx of international visitors. You know, Scotland attracts huge numbers for things like the Edinburgh Festival, obviously every year, and a big chunk of those are international travelers. So again, just rethink and reimagine that journey. So, and very often we don't do that journey. We call the back office, we call, you know, an individual on a direct dial number or whatever, but we need to re-go through the customer journey. Well, you've got people on reception, maybe dealing with customer engagement. So if I look at voice and I go around that wheel, when somebody's available and a knowledgeable member of staff is available to educate people, you know, we can again become tired around what that journey actually involves. So again, rethink about, you know, opportunities for on hold. Are you playing, you know, 20-year-old on hold music to people in crucial time when you could be, go back to Joan's example, when you could be saying, did you know that we do weekly or monthly classes? Did you know that this is a safe venue? Did you know you can have our whole menu as takeout? All of that on hold, because you've got an audience in your locality who maybe have driven past your venues for many, many years and not actually utilized it, perceived that it's not for them and there's nothing there for them in essence. So on that voice journey, it's important to make the call, work your way through it and identify, what am I not telling them? And the reason it's important is that we can get guilty if we're working in a venue of thinking, well, everybody knows that. Well, they don't. And to use the example, I think you referenced, somebody referenced there, I don't know if it was yourself, Robin, where people go and stay in a business hotel or a hotel and then end up booking, you know, for a private dining or booking for an event or a wedding or whatever like that, that happens as well. So again, we've got to reimagine that. When I look at things like 24/7, again, you know, when I was at university, I remember I was a night porter in a hotel, and you know, that's a special sort of time of actually being there. Now, the experience that you get if you're calling a venue out of hours, out of core hours, is often very, very different from the experience that you get through the day. So again, this is where aspects of things like live chat become really relevant, because even in a small venue, or if you've got somebody who is not on the premises, who is maybe better at dealing with customer inquiries, remember the person handling live chat, a person can handle 3, 4, 5 simultaneous live chats, can only handle one call. Now, people will be starting to ask venues many more questions. And again, this is a great way of responding to those questions, such as,
yeah, you can't say yo, who's that? Somebody's not on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, there, is there a problem?
No, it's just trying to mute everybody. Yep. I can't find who it is.
No worries.
Carry on.
Yep. So you know, in the sense of, if I call a venue, I can tie up the receptionist talking to me about something, whereas, you know, if you think about it, a good, competent person who doesn't have to be on site, who may be very knowledgeable about the premises, could actually be engaging with a much wider audience in a live chat type environment. Now, we're all in business in one form or another, everybody on this call, and a very simple question was asked is, what are the rules in England? What are the rules in Scotland? And even a bunch of knowledgeable people with a vested interest in knowing that didn't actually have very definite, clear answers around that. So remember, we are that customer. Can I bring my dog? Brexit is an opportunity and a threat from a travel perspective in many ways, in the sense that many people who would have historically put their dog in their car and taken that dog to another part of the United Kingdom in Northern Ireland or to the Republic of Ireland without thinking about it from a holiday point of view, are now faced with prior, 5-day visits prior to get to the vet, £300 costs to bring, to get those tests passed through every time they make that trip, let alone taking animals to mainland Europe. So suddenly there's a huge audience of people who, for the first time ever, are going to have to look at different holiday experiences and engagements basically in there. So I think in the chat, I saw a reference again to Instagrammable experiences. And I think experiences are key. So again, even when you're running a small venue, some automation around live chat allows you to answer 3, 4, or 5 simultaneous queries, and also very importantly, learn, because all of the chats on many of the platforms, and a really good platform linked to something like Google, we're talking probably £1 a day of investment. But suddenly a month in, you can see where people are struggling, the questions that they keep asking, areas on your website that you're actually visiting, which ads are converting. And, you know, for example, if you're just promoting yourself, for example, on Facebook, on Instagram, you know, on Twitter, on the different applications that are out there, where those leads and opportunities are actually coming from. So there's a whole piece around this greeting, this experience, the response. Even the old chestnut, old simple email is your, when you email the venue in, and you need to do this to find out, does anything come back? Do you have an auto reply on there that actually says to somebody, thank you for your email. By the way, here's a bunch of things that you might want to click and think that we do. Don't assume that the busy receptionist is going to remember to do all those things. And remember, if we don't respond quickly, the customer thinks, I didn't have the answer. I don't know whether I can bring Granny. I don't know whether I can get access. I don't know whether you have pet-friendly rooms. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can be deployed neatly and natively in something like you know, an email footer, an email response. Self-service as well, I've referenced on there. Obviously we deploy, and you know, COVID's been interesting for us. We've deployed some very big contact center applications and home working applications through this period as well. And again, on the very basics, when we really get down to, for those of you on the financial side of the piece, telephony wise, is when you get 5 minutes in the evening, grab any of those bills, you know, your mobile bills, your connectivity bills, any phone system bills, because hoteliers are very often focused on the great stuff, the hospitality piece, but there's too many organizations who are paying much more than they should be and much more than they need to. If you've contracted things like connectivity, so we're talking high-speed broadband connectivities and anything 2 years ago, realistically, you should be getting twice the bandwidth for about half the price in the right kind of opportunities now. Again, most organizations, or many organizations, are moving away from fixed line phones in the rooms. You know, it was almost saying, and I think the lady from Kelso made the point about things of a, you know, to do with what's the word, to do with things being, it's IBIN, I think I heard that phrase in there. So again, just need to reimagine whether you're getting value from some of the legacy systems that basically you have. Analog lines, ISDN services, and a lot of these hotel venues are relying on that. All are being effectively phased out over the next 2 or 3 years. But the risk within that is that you either get rolled over onto a longer term commitment. So that needs to be, you know, take the bill out, communicate with whoever, you know, whether you send that, you know, you ask Robin, I'm more than happy to do an FOC sort of review of that, even to make sure that you're not being turned over on that. Or worse than rolled over in some cases is that organizations put people onto what we would call default tariffs. It exists in telephony as it does within energy. And very often the first time people know, and you guys are going back into business where there's been no usage, but suddenly if you're on a default tariff and you're being, you know, in some cases 10 and 20 times a contracted or a standard rate, the bill shock arrives when you've spent £1,000 or £2,000 in the month more than you basically expected. And you guys all know that, you know, saving £5,000, you've that to sell a lot of product to provide a lot of service to put £5,000 or £10,000 back on the bottom line. So data connectivity is a final piece that I just really wanted to raise is it was always important that when somebody arrived, and you guys who've seen a hotel reception will know that when somebody arrives at reception, beyond getting the room key, that question about getting access to high-speed internet connections, it's as important as water to many operators in that at the moment. So again, you know, that's another serious consideration, is making that frictionless. You know, people's expectations now is that they've got high speed, frictionless internet access in a venue for multiple reasons, in that, you know, it's not as black and white as an international traveler who is here clearly for holiday and everything else is a bonus. We're going to see a lot more hybrid sort of stays. And as the year moves on, where, you know, mom, dad, and the kids, and maybe mom or dad are actually combining a stay in a lovely venue with actually 1 or 2 days of work or hybrid working or working from anywhere, because work is a thing you do, not a place you go anymore. You know, if I look at the 36 people or thereabouts that are on this call, we're working from lots and lots and lots of different locations. The other thing I would say, and I think staff were mentioned at the beginning as well, is that be careful what you wish for with return to normal. There are some incredibly talented hospitality experts who are now differently employed, some of whom their venues haven't made the grade. You know, they haven't managed to sort of survive through the sort of COVID period. But the interesting thing is that accessing those professionals, if you've got the right telecoms infrastructure, if you're using things like, you know, live chat and call answering and different services around the piece, you can actually massively expand your business by accessing people that geographically you wouldn't have considered before because they were at a distance. And again, if you've got the right platforms to do so. So I'm not going to go through all of the slides, but I will send them to Robin, and if he's interested in sending them, he's more than happy to do so. But think about your staff, think about the people that you have that could be working from home, that maybe will continue to work from home. Think about the experience piece. Think about which venues locally or which experiences locally you could and should be featuring on email footers, on hold messaging, because if you don't put it in front of mind with people, they're not going to know, they're not going to ask, they're not going to sort of deal with that. Simple things like connectivity, as I said, is don't just assume that what you have is as good as it's going to get. And again, in many areas of the country, there are significant digital improvement grants to actually get people up to a sort of a decent level of speed. Capture data, and capture data, I would say. That is the other consideration too, is that, you know, the organizations in the hospitality trade that historically have been happily dependent on hotels.com and booking.com and organizations like that to just keep wheeling in the customers, many of whom are travelers or international travelers, but end up with no data. So when then you're trying to market to a local audience, they don't have the data to be in a position to build that interaction and that relationship with me locally. You know, so again, that's the other point I would say, is that if some of the venues are keen to actually get people to book locally and book direct, then you need to be in a position where you're educating people at all of those interaction, all of those touch points, to actually say, hey, you should book direct. And by the way, the payoff is that we're going to keep you up to speed with the classes, the events, the special, availabilities, all of those club type experiences that we, that we sort of are greeting. And one final thing about, because I started by saying it's all in the greeting, is most hotel management systems now, with some very, very simple interactions, should allow you to greet a known customer and we all love the sound of our own name. So being in a position to put a little bit of personalization in calls and emails and the rest of it, irrespective of where you're answering it, is an absolute key when it comes down to hospitality. And I'll tell you one final little anecdote, and then I'll promise you I'll stop talking. I remember having this discussion, and it was probably about 10 years ago, and it was a story about Marriott Group in the US. And again, they were trying to crack the fact of how they could provide personalized service. So this scenario, and IT kept saying it was all too hard, it was all too complicated, all these disparate systems, it wasn't possible to basically achieve what it is that the CEO was looking to achieve. He arrived at one of his venues, and he walked from the bellboy, greeted him at the car, opened the door of the car, and he walked to reception. And when he walked to reception, he was greeted by the fact of saying, great to see you back again, sir. And he almost jumped over the reception. He goes, how did you know that? How did you know I had stayed here before? IT keep telling me that it is not possible for you to capture my records across all these disparate systems. So the guy at the other side of the desk was a bit scared in the sense this very important man was asking him this question. But he said, well, when the bellboy opened the door of your car and he said, have you been here before? He touched his ear. And I can see reception from, I can see where he opened the door of your car from here, he says. So sometimes the simplest systems and the simplest ideas work. And that's how I knew, sir, that you'd been here before, because the IT doesn't work. So sometimes you need to take the very, very simple, brilliant ideas that you guys are amazing at in hospitality and think, you know, if I've called your venue once and you've captured my details and I call again, wouldn't it be cool if you said, is it yourself again, Trevor? I feel like a rock star when somebody basically does that. And I think somebody referenced the fact is once you've made your booking and spent your money, then you're, you know, that's been and done. Now I'm looking at whatever the good waiter approach can also put in front of me and to make my life easy. So call your venues, go through the customer journey, get the bills out and question them. If you know, if you want assistance with that, get them across. I'll share the very long and extensive group of slides that I have. And if any information or any advice or whatever is of use, be brilliant to sort of pass that on. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you guys.
Thank you. Has anybody got questions? There's a couple of comments here. I think, yeah, the key to everything we've been talking about today is communication, and I know from past that communication seems to be one of the biggest issues in any hotel, and yet we're all about communication. So it is really, yeah, it's emphasizing the ways of communicating, and yeah, even if it's a sign here or you know, or just trying to make these systems work better together. There's one little chat here. It says about chatbots, and Julia's asked whether it's good or bad.
Look, the best in my view is we have customers that use chatbots in essence. Badly deployed technology is diabolical, really, really diabolical when it comes down to it. And we all have interacted with organizations to do it. When I talk about chat in a in this type of environment, what I'm talking about is a live human at the other end. Certainly all of that has to start from there. Unless any of the venues are on here are saying, look, we're handling tens of thousands of bookings on a monthly basis, I would be saying start with live chat. So you've got a live human interacting with a live human in this case. I wouldn't start with automation, you know, by any stretch of the imagination. You're in the hospitality business. You're not in the automation business, but you are in the efficiency side. And again, if I'm a new member of staff, you know, being in a position where I can get trained up quicker, what kind of questions do people ask? You know, those kind of things, that body of data is very, very, very valuable. Internationally as well, once that starts to reopen, again, if I'm on a website and I've got a hang time, some of the smart chat applications will identify, hang about, this guy's been on the booking page for 40 seconds now. There's some reason why he's not completed. You know, so as you would do, if I walked into the hotel reception of any of your venues and was just wandering around looking at the sky, picking up brochures, and then I walked out again, you wouldn't let me do that twice. You would say, quite reasonably, did you find what you were looking for? Is there anything I can help you with? That's what needs to be done, because how much money are we all spending driving people to websites, driving people to adverts and, you know, pay-per-click, etc., and then effectively letting that customer do exactly what I've just described, which is walk around, feel a bit frustrated, and then leave. Whereas, you know, because they're embarrassed to ask the question in some cases, you know. And
of course, if it's a chat, that person doesn't have to be actually sat at reception.
Absolutely.
With the hotels I work with, I try to flip things around, and I always say, right, what's worse than a receptionist being on a reservation call and you come to the desk and they can't attend you? So I put the reservationists back in the back office with doing the chats and doing all that, and I give the receptionists the admin work, because if they're doing the admin work, they can just stop straight away, stand up and say, how can I help you, sir? And the admin work can wait. So it's thinking about how to better utilize the team to actually achieve the productivity.
Yeah, and it's very much easier. It's very much easier too, if I don't know the answer to something and somebody's asking me on a chat, to cut and paste that and ask one of my colleagues on a quick chat while I'm doing something else and get the answer back to them, you know, that's it. That engagement is basically there. And again, the on hold piece is, look, the best solution is I walk into a restaurant and a fantastically knowledgeable waiter or waitress takes me to the table and then presents me with the specials of the day and knowledge about the product. That's the ultimate curated white glove experience. And again, if you've got unlimited resources so that every time I call you, email you, contact you, you've got it there. But we're being realistic in here. There's going to be times of the day when you've got lots of arrivals that you're going to have to think, well, okay, if I'm going to put someone on hold, do I play them green slaves for 10 minutes and tell them how important their call is to them? Or do I at least put them in a position where I'm able to tell them about all the cool stuff that's actually happening in a nice way, and actually indicate the kind of things that they can do and feature it, you know? So that's what I was saying there. So yeah.
Excellent.
Responsiveness is huge these days. People have no patience anymore. We're so spoiled with the choices.
Yep.
Like we can't stick. Average, I think, is 7 seconds of attention span. My one is 4 max. I will pass on video, any video on a feed, like in a 2-3 seconds, I decide to scroll past or stay with it. So responsiveness is huge. And talking about personalization, it might be a lot bigger than we even realize that, you know, knowing the name and saying the name. We all know, like, we get those calls about energy and we all hate them, right? I had a call from energy company. They knew when and with who I was. So they knew something about me. And, you know, I was happy for somebody knowing, not doing cold call, but knowing something about me. And we hate those calls. And that call, I was positive after it. So it's really huge, you know, recognizing and that's personalization and responsiveness these days.
Can I just come in here? It's an interesting point because Trevor, you touch on data, and Elena, you just touched on the personalization. I think that's absolutely key. Data. I'm in my new life. I'm in the data game, in hospitality, and we drive everything, even our menu development, through data. So how many people are buying a particular dish, which dish is not working, and we get rid of the one that's not working. And one of the biggest challenges that hospitality will find, because we are all umbilical corded to these large platforms, and these large platforms have a desire to control us effectively by holding the data. They don't share that data with us. So one of the challenges that especially boutique and small hotels have to really understand is own your data. Data ownership is the way to go. If you have a data bank of customers, even if it's manual, go through it, segment it, then start approaching each individual person and saying, okay, they're an engineer or they're a family or and then tailor that message. And I think that's the starting point. You know, understanding the data and then owning the data. If you have that data already, that's a gold mine. It's an absolute gold mine and deciding which strategy you're going to take.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Even with these like these booking programs they have now, where everybody says, oh yes, they come into their restaurant and they can book themselves what they want to eat and all the rest of it. But the whole emphasis on those should be that if the client's doing his self-service of ordering what he wants, then the waiter should be there telling him what's best, what's still there, telling him what's best on the menu. And actually, because they don't have to concentrate on the pad, they could actually engage better with the client and look at the app and say, well, they've ordered so-and-so. Oh, perhaps I should suggest that they have so-and-so wine with that. And, oh, yeah, actually, yeah, we will do. And it's the emphasis on using the data, but in ensuring you still have the contact with the client is what's important, I think.
There's certainly in looking to get customers back on board and trying new marketing, you know, peeling off individual new telephone numbers for those campaigns is sweetie money. It's pennies to basically do. because otherwise you've got no ability, no real ability to say, okay, we've tried 10 things, which one's actually really delivered for us? You know, so those are the kind of reimagined things. And every business on here, I would hazard to say, has actually got money that's been spent on stuff that isn't delivering, or indeed overspending on legacy contracts, that take that money and reinvest it, and then, you know, put yourselves back in a much better position. But there won't be any material international visitors for a period of time, which is different, you know. So we've got to get wise about that. But we've got huge bases of customers in our world, your world, you know, on our doorsteps, and you know, we just need to get inside people's heads and actually you know, service them, you know. And I think it was Robin that you made the point, is that, you know, is that it's not about it's about service. And the more you service people, and the more you make it easy, it's not about selling. You can't sell people stuff they don't want or need anymore. We've got to find different ways of providing that. And I made the reference to there's a whole bunch of experiences, like if you're a golfer, you know, there's hundreds of really experienced, capable caddies who have arguably got no or little work right now, you know, because the international travelers, the Japanese and the Americans, are not actually traveling. Maybe there's a whole audience within our individual communities in there who never thought that was for them, you know, that maybe there's, you know, it was just, you know, because they were focused on a different audience, you know.
But I think very much so, we do have to consider operationally what hotels are going through. And I know a lot of my clients are struggling to get people off the couch back into service mode rather than lockdown mode, because they've been paid a lot of money for sitting at home and they don't want to work. So there's a lot of retraining that needs to go on. And I really think, especially with front of house staff, they need to come out from behind the desk. Just as Trevor said, if you've got someone that greets you as soon as you walk through the door and says to you, welcome to the hotel, be it whether they say welcome back or just welcome, then that makes a huge difference. And that barrier has gone. And I know, once again, the big boys thought about this a long time ago, about loyalty schemes, about, you know, you can have a free chocolate bar or a free bottle of water if you've been a loyal customer. Well, they don't need to be loyal. Give them that bottle of water when they walk through the door. It costs you maybe 10p if you get the right brand, and it's cost you 10p to give someone a drink when they've been traveling maybe for hours to get to your hotel. How nice is that, to get a present as soon as you walk through the door? It doesn't matter what it is. You know, think of when the dog comes through the door, give them a treat. That doesn't even cost you not 1p. So, you know, we've got to go back to basics. We've got to forget that, you know, these guests, as you've just said, are not coming from the international world. So there is no language barrier. They know what you're saying and you know what they're saying. So you have to get it right. They want an answer like that. They don't want to wait, and there's no language barrier. So you've not got that as an excuse.
You've just reminded me of one of the places I worked, that the owner was insistent that every single guest had a little voucher saying free tea and coffee when they arrived. But they had a big show of cakes on that lounge when you went down to get your tea and coffee.
Yeah.
And what, you know, half the people won't take the tea and coffee. So it's actually not costing you anything. But the fact they've seen you have that station might make them think of having a cake or a sandwich or something. But it's hospitality. It's just what the word says. Yeah. It's hospitality. Yeah. And if they do have that cake and think, oh my God, chef's remarkable, tonight we're definitely having dinner here. We're not going down the road. We're definitely having lunch here tomorrow before we set off. All these things it just starts and builds and builds and builds.
Yep. It's all a big circle. It's all a big circle. Okay, well, I think we've come to the end of today's hour. It's past the hour as usual. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Trevor and Joan. Excellent presentations. I'll be including them in the email as usual, and look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Robin.
All right, thank you. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.